Initially it started with some like gothic photographs that a former lover had taken of me. And I had the idea of putting it onto like a duvet or something. And a partner friend of mine, Mike Wax, he was like, I love this. I love your idea with the shower curtains. Can I partner with you? Can we play, please? And I was like, thanks for the support and let's give it a whirl. So that in particular is based on some work that I did all the way back in like 2005. And so it started with all of that work, which I guess was just right on time for right now with some other things.
Mm-hmm.
And then that led me to go to do some of the samples that I'm doing with things that are a little bit different of aesthetic now.
Mm-hmm. Well, thank you. That was the first thing that I saw was your interior designs, and they really caught my eye. Well, for one, I'd never seen shower curtains, for example, with some of the dark art that you exhibit, and I love it. I love that it's accessible. It speaks to me since that is what I'm biased toward, is dark art. But yeah, thank you for sharing that with Art Unites. We love that you shared one of our recent posts on your blog. We really appreciate that, and we'll be following your journey closely.
I appreciate it so much. It means a lot.
And speaking of brands, the other brand I noticed was your clothing. So under the name Piccard, can you tell us about the aesthetic there?
You know, I've always been doing kind of like lots of rags, never quite to riches kind of sensibility. So it's kind of like a barrio couture without a tia to help you actually sew. So everything I've ever done has pretty much been by hand, no sewing machine. And I have a history of sewing garments onto models directly for the fit. Yeah, and mixed materials. Like I'm not afraid of trying different things. A lot of people, you know, can be a fabric snob.
Mm-hmm.
I like all sorts of things, and including upcycling and obscure things that may not be, you know, normal or reasonable.
Is that also under the Piccard Studio website, or is that a different website for the clothing brand?
It hasn't been like a complete secondary site. It's kind of more of a lifestyle. So, you know, when you live and breathe certain things and you're always creating, one leads to the other. Like you could be waiting for your nails to dry or trying to, and at the same time you're cooking. It's not rational, but it's an honest behavior.
Well, I love everything that you do. And so I'm excited that other Art Unites followers will get to see the same beautiful designs that I've enjoyed on your site.
I appreciate it. What is I was saying, things with being like as what you need to fit, because I know more often than not, things just don't fit us because, you know, we're individuals, you know, we're not a fast fashion kind of body. And with that being said, having things that are made specifically with you in mind, I think is more precious. Like, you know, if you had something that belonged in the family, no matter how small it was, but you wanted it introduced into something, those are the type of options I like to give people.
Yes, I totally agree with that. Now, we touched on goods for your company. What about services? I read a little bit about services that are customized, but will you share a little bit more about what those services are?
I mean, it kind of varies. Like on spot, having such a long history in our business as a director and a dealer, and having traveled, you know, various places, buying for people. You know, I've had a lot of time where people have a hard time shopping for themselves. And that's one of the things I've always enjoyed doing, you know, is buying for other people, but within their means. You know, a lot of times you'd be surprised whether your means are high or low. There's somebody that would pick things for you that are just perfect without being a box and ship like you see in a lot of corporations doing now. Something on a personal level.
Yes,
you know?
and speaking of styling, I know that you've done some styling for amazing projects. Will you share maybe one of those projects that you did with Vidal Sassoon?
Well, with Vidal Sassoon, it was mostly working with some people that had worked before. Maurice Tidy, I had the opportunity to work with. He was a Sassoon original out of London, and I had the opportunity to work with him in the sense of watching him with his technique and training techniques. And so for me, that was an exceptional opportunity and learning. And then, of course, it was done with a lot of students, so they were able to take photographs of the time period. As for myself and styling and things that were well and beyond, working with La Jolla Playhouse and, you know, Midsummer Night's Dream, and creating an entire fashion show that paired with the Women's History Museum and getting costuming and being allowed to do that. And then various other local designers, and seeing that you had all of these different artists working at a venue off the track, not directly related to the Playhouse, was an incredible experience. Yeah, I feel good about that one.
Yeah, you sure
do. It was a big deal, actually. You know, sometimes it takes a little time to be reflective when you're really busy on things that really spoke to your soul. And with them having just won a couple of awards, you know what I mean, at the Playhouse, it felt even better. Like, you know, you're playing on a winning team. It's kind of like, you know, it's kind of like being with the Yankees. You don't expect to lose.
Wow, congratulations on that.
Yeah.
And I would love to ask you about some of your highlights as a curator, and one project that really stood out to me that I'm excited to hear about is your exhibition featuring works by Robert Mapplethorpe. What was that like, choosing from his extensive body of work?
It was one of the most incredible experiences, in the sense that here's somebody that's very well known now, but the back history of the individual, and, you know, Patti Smith, and, you know, all that is art of that time period is really incredible. And being able to work with Santiago, the person that holds that entire collection, was very much precious to me, you know. And at the time, Catherine Sweetman, she's a female filmmaker, does documentaries. She was able to film conversations with him about the bodies of work too. So to be part of each and every part of the process itself was amazing. And looking at the details of every single photograph and deciding where it went was more than one could imagine, coming from a background like I did. You know, when you don't come from a background of a great deal of means or higher education, to find your way like this in stilettos to get there, you go, all right, I did okay for what I was working with.
Well, I hope I get to see examples from that particular exhibition. I'm excited and thrilled that you have that opportunity.
Yeah, The Agency was the name of the show, and it was quite literally based on a New York agency of models. And Mapplethorpe was hired to do these photographs, and he was a train wreck. This was not on the list of all the best of his work by any means, compared to everything else he had done. But he was brave enough to try it, so I think it was a beautiful failure. And and as an artist or creative person, you know, you're either open to things and growth, or you're not. And some of our greatest failures are our masterful triumphs. They just are.
They are. They certainly are. And speaking of triumphs, I would like to learn about your collaboration with your husband and legendary producer, John Fryer, for Black Needle Noise. What has that collaboration been like? And I understand that you both bring different writers to different songs. I'm guessing different musicians as well to collaborate with some of the production that's going on, for example, guitars or other things. You bring models for your photo shoots. what was that collaboration like for you, say in June of last year? I know you released a song.
Yeah, it was interesting process, one, just even meeting, becoming a couple, definitely not knowing one from the other in the least. For sure John's been the soundtrack to most of our lives, whether we realize it or not, based on the various artists that he's worked with for over 40 years, probably approaching 50. And with that being said, it's been an honor and a privilege, definitely, to work with somebody that is a master in that regard. As far as Black Needle Noise, being able to work amongst all of the other talent, especially some of the women I've been able to work with directly when it comes to singing and things like that, the men that are on the label, and in conversations and ideas and thoughts, working in a process in a realm outside of the art that I'm used to, but in music, something that I've loved my whole life, was just, I guess it was another leg of the walk of this life, I guess, maybe. And as far as releasing the tracks on these Mortal covers on Cleopatra Records was really exciting. And to be able to have 3 different songs that are very, very different from each other as an expression on that album was more than incredible. Sometimes it's hard to listen to yourself when you never shut up. Yeah.
So your song from June, it was Talks to Angels, is that right? In June of 2020?
Yeah, so She Talks to Angels, that's a cover song of the Black Crowes.
Yeah, so I loved your delivery because it was, well, for me anyway, it elicited thoughts of sadness, yet empowerment somehow in your presentation of that song. And there was this ethereal quality, yet there was edge and an industrial sound. There was a lot going on. It was such a rich song in its texture and the emotions that it evoked. So thank you for sharing that with us. I love that song. It was so beautifully suited for you, for your vocals, I thought. And I wonder what feelings or emotions were you wishing to convey through that song? Especially given the time, June 2020, this was about the height of the pandemic.
It's personal.
I think I'm not sure if you're muted.
Maybe.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah, it's personal. The song's very personal. I have a long life and a long history of a great many beautiful people. Some still here and some not. And it spoke to me because it conveys a message of what's real. Like that.
Well, thank you. And by the way, I did listen to the other songs on these Mortal covers. I'm guessing a nod to this Mortal coil. But, like you said, they're very different from one another. There's one cover that you did that was super edgy, and I don't recall the title at this moment. Was it Black Angel or?
The Black Magic.
Magic.
It's a punk rock cover, TSOL out of Huntington Beach. And I lived in Huntington Beach for a long period of time and raised part of my family there. And so for me to kind of go back home in some regards, one of my various homes, but to go back and kind of honor that time period in my life, and then just kind of reflect on, like, it doesn't matter how much later, it still feels 100% that way sometimes. So it was fun. It was a real kick in the gut, as somebody said before.
Yeah, I liked how different the 3 songs were, and so they showcased your voice differently. It put them in different spotlights. So I appreciated the
Thank you.
diversity. Yeah. Now, I brought up Edge, and I wanted to share with you that in watching your films, your videos, your looking at your beautiful photos on your social pages, I get this impression that you're highly confident and you have a wonderful sense of humor and that there's lightheartedness. Would you say that those things are true, or are you more reserved than I see across your photos and your films?
Yeah, I'm probably not reserved. I mean, I've literally been called a brash American. So what do? You just like, you know what? There'll be a table and I might be on it. I might be on that same table when I'm 85 years old and still not feeling guilty.
I hope you do. I hope you do. And so I would like to ask you, did you grow up in an artistic household where maybe other family members were artistic or involved in the arts in any way? And did they support your artistic endeavors? Because your list of credits is long, and I hope that that was the case. But tell us about your background.
I had a very split home growing up. Fortunately, my mother was a painter. She also had her own hair salon, so beauty and everything always spoke to her. All things goddess, all things, that were aesthetic. I grew up in divorce. So having a torn home was kind of a benefit because the other side of the family were nothing but music, old Hollywood, old LA, and kind of in the business and in various amounts in California construction. So I was around people that loved architecture and building, but 100% blue collar. So it was very grassroots, /broke, but super glamorous broke. You know what I mean? Some of the people with no money have the most style.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
Yeah. So coming from broken home like that, I think in some regards, as heartbreaking as it is, you learn how to like sew and duct tape and refashion your heart every time somebody smashes it. And each time you just hope it looks a little cooler than it did the last time.
Well, there you go, friends who are shy in the arts, and myself included. For much of my life, I was a very timid artist, vocalist, and it wasn't until recent years that I just felt confident enough to do interviews like this and challenge myself to things I never thought were possible. So there you have it.
You're amazing. And we all appreciate you for doing this. If it wasn't for you being bold like this, you wouldn't be sitting in my living room.
Right. Yes, I'm thankful for that. And I encourage artists every opportunity I have, those who remind me of me years ago, who just need a little bit of inspiration from friends like you to get out there and take chances and explore. And it's okay to make mistakes. You talked about the beautiful failures earlier, and I wholeheartedly agree with that. Awesome. So before we part, I'd like to ask what your sources of happiness are in this period in our history of darkness.
That's a really good question, sources of happiness. I guess you kind of just dig for anything that kind of excites you or feels pretty, Like I really enjoy like gardening, organic food, things like that. So using your precious little manos and letting the magic happen is what gets you through it, And I feel in some regards, it's not so much dark as it is just prison time. Like you feel you're locked up for a crime that you didn't sign up for,
Wow.
And that's been the only part that's been unfortunate, you know. It's opened doors for people at home, education, lots of beautiful things that they may have not recognized before. But for me personally, I like to mash it up, and I need human contact and, you know, that high energy that comes out of people. That doesn't necessarily come through a video screen as much as we'd like it to.
Well, this next question was not on my list, but I am curious. I'm curious, since I would imagine you and John have spent more time than usual. I know you're both very busy with your various projects, but I would imagine you've spent more time than usual at home together. What are some of your conversation topics like? Oh, you're muted. Hold on one sec. Let's see if I can unmute you.
Are we good?
Yes, yes. So I hope you don't mind this question. It's just my husband and I, for example, he and I talk about so many profound things, especially now that we spend more time together. We work together 2 days out of the week, and we come home after a tired day and we'll talk about some pretty deep things. And other times we're just goofy and we we like to be playful and poke fun at each other. One example was tonight, as a matter of fact, when I played the pronunciation of your name. Jess was there to hear it. And he knew I would struggle, but anyhow, the point is, I have loved this special time with my husband that we didn't have before, because it was constantly go, go, go. And that's one blessing for me anyway. What has it been like for you guys?
What's it been like for us? That's a really good question. Well, considering we have a music studio outside of the house, and really, in those regards, things just didn't change. He'd go to the studio, or we'd go to the studio. You know, I'd work here from my studio here at home. So as the rest of the world wasn't really going out, it was more engaging in social events that we weren't doing. So we were just pretty much living as we were before, minus a social lifestyle. Yeah, it's kind of strange. Yeah. All of those things didn't really seem to change for us at all. I know it's boring.
No, it's not.
The level of deep is, but it's not deep.
Well, sometimes that's needed. Sometimes that's needed. We have enough deep in the news, every channel we turn to, and the economy and the death toll. There's plenty of deep out there. So.
Yeah, for sure. You know, when I hear the numbers coming in from like Brazil and things like that, my little heart breaks on so many levels, you know, and you just feel like your hands are tied. So all you can do is your personal magic at home and just put out the best vibes you can and help who you can, when you can, with whatever you have as means, you know. And as far as like the depth, like I was saying, you guys have been enjoying the ocean. We've been in the kiddie pool. Got to keep it light.
Yeah, well, you are welcome here anytime. You want to come back to San Diego, you always have a home.
Love to hear that.
And we're not far from the ocean, so you're always welcome.
Thank you so much. It's nice to be invited.
Thank you again very much for spending time with me, for allowing Art Unites followers to learn more about you and to get to know your brand. So friends, please visit Anjela's different websites for her project with her husband, Black Needle Noise, as well as Piccard Studio, where you can find her dark interiors. And I'm sure more things to come. We're excited to follow your journey. Thank you again, and we hope to see you soon.
Thank you. Be
Bye.
well. Night, gorgeous.
Bye. Good night.